This is Scary Movie Fright Night, a new podcast about two guys who just watch scary movies. I'm Chris, and I love scary movies.
And I'm Sam, and I hate scary movies. My body just shook. Give me the heebie-jeebies. No, don't. All you have to do is stay inside in your bed, and then you won't get murdered.
Oh. Okay.
And now you have that recorded.
Welcome back, Friday Night friends, to Scary Movie Fright Night's season wrap-up bonus episode and the first annual Scary Movie Fright Night award ceremony. It's going to be exciting. Sam has survived the excitement and the horror-filled 13-episode season. So we're going to reflect on it a little bit, discuss it, and then, give out some deserving awards for all the hard work that these movies did this season. For the listeners, you can't see us, but, you'll see it in some of the reels we post and whatnot. But Sam and I dressed up a little bit.
Got our bow ties.
We're both in our bow ties.
Yes.
I'm wearing a little vest.
Mm-hmm.
I have a freshly shaven head. I'm just kidding, but it looks like it because I'm always bald. And to celebrate the occasion, we have a couple champagne flutes here that we're going to pour a nice little non-alcoholic sparkling water into. Yeah, you hear that sound?
A little fizz there.
Yep, get our sparkling water beverage. Oh, that's good.
Can you hear it?
I can hear it.
Hopefully it sounds like a champagne flute and not like a toilet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
My spindrift actually almost looks like...
It does.
It does. It looks like extra bubbly champagne.
My lime LaCroix looks like sparkling water.
Water. Yeah, well, that's your MO. But, cheers to you, Sam. Here's to making it this far and not spilling your sparkling water on yourself.
Well, yeah, we'll see if that lasts. And I would like to cheers to you for being...
Oh, okay. To me, this is nice.
The best co-host of Scary Movie Fright Night and for inviting me along on this journey. You challenged me, and here we are today.
And here we are. To me.
To you!
Not to be, egocentric or whatever.
No, that's the point. That's what happens when somebody toasts you. You have to be egocentric. Well,
okay.
I will say, when you first pitched this idea for us to do this Scary Movie Fright Night podcast together, I thought, why?
I thought you were going to say, hell no.
Well, that is what my gut told me to say, because I thought, why would I do a podcast for a genre that I dislike and know nothing about? End of story. No, just kidding. But then,
end of story.
Then I was
and then you were like, sure.
I was like, actually, that is the point. That's what would make it fun, I think, is to go on the adventure and to try the new thing and to do the thing that I think I wouldn't like anyway and just see how it goes. And I'm so glad that I did. And that's what, I guess we have a lot more to talk about there, but that's where I want to start.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I had the idea and I was like, oh, Sam's not going to go for this, but it's a really easy, way to do a podcast. It lets me watch scary movies, which I don't really get a chance to do. So it gives me it's a forcing factor, right? A forcing function to make me sit down and watch movies that I just, I enjoy, but I never watch. And so I was like, hey, I got this idea. And you were like, you paused for a second, you were contemplating, and then you said, sure. And I said, can you sign a contract because before you change your mind?
Well, I guess a couple things I like about this. One is I really like learning new things. So it's fun to just explore something different, a new genre. And secondly, I think it's fun to do something that brings you so much joy. So even though at the beginning I'm thinking like, oh, I'm not going to really enjoy watching these scary movies, but I still, because we're spending quality time together and I get to see how much you enjoy it, that brings me joy. And actually, as I'm sure you've heard in some of these episodes, the plot twist is that I also enjoyed quite a few of these movies. And
almost all of them.
And I actually really appreciated the craft behind making these films. So I'm glad that I signed up for this. And I'm very excited about the fun awards that we have to give out tonight. But I'm also looking forward to doing it again in season 2.
Me too. Make it bigger, make it better, or make it the samer. Either way, it's going to be a fun follow-up.
Yeah.
So without further ado, because we have some awards to give out, and so we gotta keep this show moving along, let's go ahead and recap the season, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so we started out with episode 1, Candyman, which for the record, your uncalibrated Sam scary meter, you had nothing to go off of, besides Bambi being a 10 from your memory. But you gave Candyman a 7, and that was the first episode. We
Yeah.
followed that up with Cabin in the Woods, which you gave a 3, which I think, is pretty agreeable from one to the next. Followed by M3 which was the only movie that had didn't have a distinct rating, but it was a 1 or 2. um,
Yes.
so 1 or 2 ish. And then followed by The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which you gave a 4. Evil Dead Rise, we went and saw in theaters. You gave that a 6 out of 10. Followed by High Life, which left you feeling disturbed and lonely and just like
Sad.
sad and disparous. That's probably not a word, but that you gave an 8. So that was the highest one to that day or
Yep.
date.
Yep.
Followed by Nightmare on Elm Street, good fun, old 80s flick, which you gave a 3 out of 10. And then we went to another A24 film, Midsommar, which you gave a 9 out of 10. We followed that up again with kind of like while scary themed, more of a dramatic movie in Train to Busan, which you gave a 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carrie, which was another 8. So that tied with High Life, in second place. And this is where it starts to get interesting, because at this point I started to say to myself, man, how do we scare Sam? Because every high rating he's gotten has been purely based off of the emotional impact of the movie.
Right.
And then we had a pivotal moment, and we hit paranormal horror and watched The Conjuring. And that one you gave a solid 10 out of 10. Didn't know we'd
Yes.
find it this season, but that one was a 10. Then we watched The Witch, 7 out of 10. And then, the last one was literally like drawn out of a hat, because that's actually what we did. And by process of elimination, you picked from 7 movies we hadn't seen, and you watched Paranormal Activity. And that one you gave an 11 out of 10 because it was scary as shit and scarier than The Conjuring.
I think it's pretty cool how the scariness meter went from like starting kind of mid and then it dropped. I mean, it kind of went up
Hmm.
and down throughout the season, but we almost peaked at that 10, those like
Yep.
nines and tens towards the end of the season. And
Yeah.
then we really peaked in the very last episode, which was kind of unplanned and unexpected because it was totally random. That choice
Yeah. Because it
for
was
that
completely
movie,
random.
completely random. Kind
And,
of
and,
cool how
yeah.
it turned out.
And I don't know. Obviously, there's no way to tell, and we'll never know until we watch all of the other movies. But I don't. I'm curious. The fact that completely at random you picked the one that would top The Conjuring. So it is pretty cool the way that the season kind of worked out. And some of it I can say is, by design of trying to order the themes in such a way that, if you're offered a lot of old movies, then let's do something more modern, and then trying to like make it diversified. There's
Yeah.
a little bit of craft to it, but to be honest, I can't take that much credit, because neither of us really knew what would scare you, in the
Right.
beginning. We were just
Right.
kind of like playing it
I've
by ear.
always
And
I've always avoided it. I've
yeah,
never like indulged the fear.
and at the halfway point, give or take, Evil Dead Rise, I was kind of, I was like, I don't think he's ever gonna find anything scary. Just because, not
That's
that we'd
right.
watched anything particularly scary, but
Yeah.
but it was just kind of like, what's his thing? What's it gonna be?
What is it? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
We came out of the theaters watching Evil Dead Rise, and I almost felt like I was afraid of letting you down because I felt like we were searching for that
yeah,
coveted 9 or 10, and I was like, I thought that was gonna be it because of the hype. And don't get me wrong, I loved the movie. In fact, it bears repeating
yeah,
that this is the scary scale. So it's like trying to judge hot wings and trying to figure out which ones are the hottest. So the
yeah.
things, the nines and tens and 11s, those were just like truly the scariest. But
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that the ones and the twos and the threes weren't good movies and fun to watch. Like I would definitely recommend Train to Busan, even though it was only
Yep.
a 2 on the scary scale.
And well, on that note, right? And you gave recommendations for every one. And so you actually recommended every movie this season except for 2. One
Oh,
was
I
High
forgot.
Life. Yeah, High
Okay.
Life, you were like, don't watch it
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Just forget it exists.
Sorry.
No,
I'd rather
well, no,
jump
I
into a
mean,
black hole than watch that movie.
yeah, yeah. And then the other one was Paranormal Activity. You were like, if you're not ready for it, don't watch it. So, like, even though you watched it, you were like, this is the hottest chicken wing. I survived it. It was hot as F, but I
don't
don't want
start
you to
there.
go through this pain. Yeah, you're not ready for
Yeah,
this yet.
yeah, I'm glad we didn't start the season there either. The journey that we went on sort of up and down this scale,
Yeah,
and you did a really nice job of bringing a mix of different types of scary movies from different eras and different styles. Like, that was pretty cool to see just the variety. I mean, scary movie, that's such a broad category. When people
it
say,
really is.
"I don't like scary movies," that's like saying I don't like Asian cuisine. Like, what? There's so
Right.
many
There's
options. There's so
so
much
much.
diversity. Like, you have to
Yeah.
explore it a little bit and figure out what you do like, what you don't like, what you really are scared of, what you think is fun or funny. Like, it's been a journey, and I'm glad that we're on it.
Well, and it's kind of funny. I mean, I obviously am as well. And but it's funny because we started the season and you called me like a horror aficionado, and our opening, says, and I love scary movies, which is true.
Yeah,
But this was very educational for me as well because I've never had to like put scary movies into a theme and put them into a box and assess them based off of any criteria. It's just like, oh, it's a scary movie, I'll watch it. Okay, that was fine. And then I go on to another one. I've never had to kind of really do analysis on the movie I watch.
yeah,
I'll just kind of remember and be like, "Oh, I remember that movie was good." And so kind of digging into some of the background or you bringing in some of the trivia,
right.
stuff that we didn't know, even stuff like Evil Dead, which I've known that genre, and the Nightmare on Elm Street like series, and not knowing that Sam Raimi and Wes Craven had this like tennis hitting the ball back and forth in their movies where they were giving Easter eggs back and forth. Like, so some of that's just
That
been
was
fun
pretty
and
cool.
educational, and it makes me feel a little more like an actual aficionado because now I actually know some stuff.
Yeah,
But we
hell yeah,
barely scraped the surface, right? There's
yeah.
I mean, I have a running list that is not even close to complete, and it's going to be like 500 seasons from now before we ever hit all the movies. But we'll be here for it.
I don't know if we'll hit all of the scary movies in all of history, but we'll
Maybe
give it
not.
our best shot. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. Now that we have the scary scale, and I really
Hmm.
appreciate you saying that when I had to rank Candyman and Cabin in the Woods, the first couple episodes, it was really challenging because I didn't really know how it compared against everything else. It was kind of
Right.
best guess, best educated guess. But now that we have everything kind of situated on scale, is there anything that you look at and you're like, that is totally in the wrong place? That doesn't make any sense. Why is that there?
Well, I mean, it is your scale. But I think that overall, I think most of the time I pretty much agreed. I think I pretty much agreed. I 100% agreed with where Paranormal Activity and The Conjuring laid out, especially for the season. I'm a little rusty on scary movies, but The Conjuring with the jump scares in the first half, as we kind of discussed last season or last episode,
Hmm.
comparing it to Paranormal Activity, and Paranormal Activity definitely won the season at 11.
Hmm.
I think it was pretty accurate. I think the ones that leave behind the strong emotions, I would never have rated as high. So like
Okay.
High Life left you feeling desperate, but I had never considered that as part of the horror genre. It is. I mean, there's a reason that isolation horror, and there's a reason that movie is space horror because
Yeah.
of the feelings it leaves behind. Just like Midsommar is a horror movie. It's a folk horror movie.
Yeah.
And there's obviously horror aspects definitely in the opening sequence, and then Mr. Lungman hanging out in the barn or whatever, what he
Right.
was. Um, but yeah, I don't know that I would have ever rated Midsommar a 9.
Would
I
you
don't
would have gone
know.
lower with that one?
Yeah, I probably would have rated
Uh,
him, because it didn't leave like it was kind of disturbing, kind of uncomfortable. There were definitely some graphic imagery. The
yeah.
beginning was harsh. It was weird, twisty.
The
Uh,
beginning. Remember the beginning?
the beginning alone, I mean, was pretty horrific.
Yeah,
It's hard for me to go back and say where I would put that though, because again, this is your scale. So
that's
more
fair.
importantly, now that you know what you know, is there anything that you would, if you had one chance to like to recalibrate your scale, would you change any of your ratings?
I don't I don't know that I would change anything. I mean, saying like moving something from a 7 to an 8 or an 8 to a 7 feels like what kind of what's the difference? But
Right.
when I look at the scale, the movies toward the bottom are look like they have more humor in them, more emotion maybe. Like thinking about Train to Busan and Megan,
Mhm.
Nightmare on Elm Street, Cabin in the Woods. I think it's also important to remember the context of the movie, like when the time, like when it was released, how old is it, and what
Right.
was the nature of the fear or the horror or whatever when it was released compared to now. So, like Nightmare on Elm Street, Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street, for example, just felt like pretty low
Yeah.
because just the time that's gone by since that movie was created. Then you have like the middle of the pack, which for me was like The Shining, Evil Dead Rise, The Witch Tide with Candyman. But
Mhm.
like, those had, they were less funny, less silly. Although Evil Dead Rise did have some pretty funny parts in it.
Yeah, I mean,
But
it
there
had some
was
campiness.
yeah. And then so as you mentioned, the category like the Carrie, the High Life, the Midsommar, part of what plays into the fear for me is the psychological fear of being alone
Right.
or being, disrespected or mistreated, the feelings of isolation that Carrie
Mhm.
experiences, that Danny and Midsommar experiences. Yeah, and then the tippy top of the chart were those paranormal experiences, which if you had asked me in the beginning what I would have found the scariest, I don't know that I would have been able to articulate that the ghost situation, the demon situation would have like
Was gonna be it.
really freaked me out. Yeah. But I mean, when I think back to when we first started and I told you the scariest movie I'd ever seen was probably The Ring,
Mhm.
that kind of falls into
It
this
does.
paranormal category, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So it,
And
it
it's
makes
very similar
sense.
because there's a lot that you don't really see.
Yeah.
They actually do a good job in The Ring, not that we watched it, right? Or that I've seen it in quite a while, but the imagery is in such a way that they tweak the imagery so that even when you see stuff, it's not normal. Her movements and some of that allows you to kind of be creeped out because you don't really ever see like her face until, later on in the movie and stuff like that. You just kind of get these like glimpses.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think what we established talking about the Conjuring and Paranormal Activity is that sometimes what is the scariest is that which you cannot see. And
Yep.
when your brain starts filling in the blanks of
Hmm.
anticipation of what might be there, it sort of takes over, and it's like you're not relying on the movie to make you scared. Your own brain like turns against you and
Yeah.
starts freaking yourself out.
Well, and it's very individual, right? And because again, and so this kind of goes back to what you were saying about those movies that left you with those feelings. They hit you harder and left more of an impact on you than they did me. But then something like The Shining, not super scary. Now, part of it's nostalgia, but I'm just kind of in it with the score, enveloped into the idea of it. And even though it's 1980, I might have rated it. Maybe I would have rated it a 4. I don't know. Uh, I, at this point, I'm not sure, but I might have rated it higher. Maybe not in comparison. So everything I just said is useless. I just basically
Well,
said maybe I would have done something, but it is very individual. Um,
maybe next season we should start a Chris's scary scale of scariness, whatever
uh-huh.
it's called. And but we could do it like I'd be really curious if we both showed up with a number in mind and we don't tell each
Yeah.
other what it is. So we're not
Oh,
influenced
that's
by each other's thoughts and then we see where we're aligned and where we're like
that's
way
true.
off.
That's true. That's a good point. I would also. I wonder how. Well, we could find out, but I wonder if because I'm kind of like, is it scary or is it not scary? And so the in between, I think I would be like, it's a 5 or is it a 6? Maybe it's a 7 or it might be a 4, but it could be a
Yeah.
6, but maybe it's a 5. And then I would average 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 8, and I would divide it by 4.
You'd start
Anyway, no, I'm
you
just
start
kidding.
saying, "How many times did I get jump scared, and how
Yeah,
many
I would have to
ounces of
count. I'd be like,
blood
okay,
were
so
in
I
the
didn't. Yeah,
hands? Yeah, was
I'm
it
a
scary
little
music?"
hyper analytical. In
Analytical?
case you don't know me,
Oh,
yeah,
I
it's
know you.
fine. Yeah,
And I'm just like,
um,
I don't know, it's an 8."
yeah. You were like, oh, it's fine. You're like, it was funny when I saw images of her putting her vagina juice in the lemonade. I thought that was hilarious.
That actually was really funny. And listen, wait, I have to tell you something. So,
Uh oh.
maybe we could give a quick shout out to, this is another podcast I've been listening to, which is, Too Scary Didn't Watch.
Yeah.
And it's 3 women,
Hmm.
and I'm sorry I don't know their names off the top of my head, but they have been doing a very similar concept to this show where they do, like they break down a scary movie every episode. They just hit their 200th episode. Their
Yeah.
first episode was
Well, at the
Midsommar.
time of recording this, they just hit their 200th episode. Yeah.
True. Yeah, some time will have gone by the time you hear this. But they their very first episode was Midsummer, however we say
Hmm.
it. And for their 200th episode, they revisited Midsummer.
Yeah.
And
And they also
I
thought it was funny.
yes,
Ah,
yes, they kept
maybe
naming
it's
all
just
the funny
because
things that happened in the movie.
You know what's funny is I wonder if it's because I have a weird thing about like, so when I'm like really full and you talk about food, I'm just like, oh, just don't talk about food. Or if like I know something doesn't agree with me,
Yeah.
then and you talk about something like that, it immediately makes me kind of feel that way. So I wonder if it's like in that moment, I'm like imagining myself drinking vagina juice lemonade. Like not, but not consciously, right? I'm not just like, what does that taste like? No, but like,
Delicious.
but there's some sort of subconscious thing with the food that
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know. I can't
That's something.
explain it.
Well, I
Yeah.
think people have different senses of humor, and,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, maybe I have a twisted sense of humor, but I just thought that
Yeah.
I thought that the notion of some of the things in the movie were just so silly. And I remember
Yeah.
reading about Ari Aster, the director, writer and director
Yeah.
of Midsommar, talking about there is an element of silliness to it. Like
Right.
when they are performing the ritual, the Stupa, or however you say it, when the guy
Yeah.
jumps off a cliff
With
and
the
then they
hammer. Yeah.
bang his head in with a hammer, and like they smash his head like 3 or 4 times, and it's
Hmm.
like, he's done. He is dead after hit number 1, but
Yeah.
it was the ridiculousness of the situation where they're like, "Well, this is our ritual, and he gets 3 hits to the head, so we just
Yeah.
do it anyway." You know, like,
Well,
that is just so absurd. I found it I mean, that part was disturbing. I don't know if I was laughing necessarily, but there was a
right.
hint. There was a little hint of like, "Oh, I kind of see the ridiculousness of
Right.
that
Well,
it's, like, almost funny."
and to be honest though, there's a pretty thin line when you think about it between ridiculous and absurd and
Mm,
kind of humorous. And
yeah,
like, there's a thin line between all of that.
yeah.
I don't laugh a ton. I usually am trying to invoke laughter in others, which works about, 20% of the time.
I would
But
say 25.
okay, well, we'll average it at 23 and a half. No,
Okay.
uh, but so I think that we probably feel the same way, but we use different descriptors because I see and so I think a lot of this is just semantics. I think it's the way
Sure.
you conceptualize the definition of what you saw versus me thinking also very ridiculous, over the top, kind of absurd. But then I overanalyze it, and I think I talked about this in the Midsummer episode. In that moment, as soon as I realize it's ridiculous that they're hammering it, I'm then like down the road subconsciously of like human behavior and doing things to just to do them because it's part of a thing and it's not conscious thought and like not no thought to why are we doing this, and then it ties that into humanity and how, yeah, and so I very quickly
Oh,
take
you
it
get
on a
very, like, philosophical, analytical.
I do. And well, and
Yeah.
it's funny is I don't even think most of that's conscious, but I think that
Mm.
there will be times that I'll be in conversation, and I don't know if I've actually done this with you, but I will be talking about something and there'll be a quick pause and then I will talk about something completely different. And so I've gotten in the habit now, particularly with Shelly, is that I will be like, by the way, this is how I got there because it's
Oh,
connected.
you
And I
gotta
will
connect the
walk through
dots.
thinking about this, which brought up this in my mind, which thought about this, which got to this, which actually brought that up. And so they're actually completely related in that path, but I have a bit of a rabbit hole brain. So maybe that's the reason why, or maybe not. Maybe I
That's
just,
that's
who
fair.
knows?
I'm tracking, I'm following along. I'm not
Well, that's
lost
good. At
yet.
least someone is. At
Yeah.
least someone is. Not yet. Not yet. Um,
Well, maybe we should start introducing our awards. Oh, well, I guess, is there anything else to wrap up the season?
nope.
Nope, we didn't watch that movie, but maybe
We
in
did not,
season
but
2.
maybe in season 2.
I'm just really excited. I'm really excited about the award categories.
These awards, it's gonna be super fun. We're really excited. We dressed up for it. We're drinking sparkling water out of champagne flutes. But now for the moment you've all been waiting for, or at least that we've been waiting for. Scary Movie Fright Night Season 1 Awards Show, featuring your hosts, Chris and Sam, and special guest, no one, because no one showed up as our special guest, but it's fine. Freddy Krueger's here. He just
Wait,
doesn't have a
our
speaking role.
listener
What?
is here. You're here. Our listener is our
Yeah,
special
yeah, yeah.
guest.
Well, they're in the audience.
Oh, you were sitting in the audience. That's right.
They're in the audience. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we're glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you for being here. If you weren't, then we'd just be talking to ourselves. Um, so many of these movies that we're going to mention, right? The scenes, the characters, they worked very hard to bring both you and us some of the best podcast content ever this season. And for that, we're going to show our appreciation. So if you're ready, Sam, then I'll go ahead and start with the first category.
I am ready. Let's do this.
Okay. So the first category for the award is Best Meal in a Horror Film. And the nominees are Bloody Scrambled Eggs, Evil Dead Rise, Meat Pie and Pink Lemonade, Midsommar, and giant can of fruit cocktail, The Shining. Sam, what are your thoughts about the nominees?
Oh, what a good pool of nominees. So I remember sitting in the theater watching, I think Ellie is her name, the first
Yeah.
person to get possessed in Evil Dead Rise. And this is before the family has realized. I mean, they know something's up, but they don't
Mhm.
realize that she is dangerous because they're standing behind her, watching her in the kitchen while she cranks up a frying pan on the stove, full heat, takes out a dozen eggs, and just starts throwing the eggs one at a time into the pan, not cracking them, just
Yeah.
a whole egg thrown into the pan. And we're watching this scene. You're sitting to my right, Zach, my partner, sitting to my left, and he leans over and he says, "That looks like you cooking scrambled eggs." And I thought,
Rude.
well, this movie isn't scary anymore because now it's just funny.
Yeah.
But so that's our first nominee. Meat Pie and Pink Lemonade and Midsommar. We already referenced this a little bit, but if you missed the Midsommar episode, shame on you. You should go back and watch it. But there was a,
Or
uh,
listen.
uh, oh yeah, listen, don't watch it. Listen, uh, there was a ritual scene where the women in this cult were in order to get pregnant, they would do this ritual of putting period blood into the lemonade. Is that right? No, into the yes, into the
Yeah, yeah,
lemonade,
yeah. Into the
and
lemonade, yeah.
a pubic hair into the pie,
Or a clipping of, because there's
or
probably
a
more than one. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry. In order to, I don't know, get the man to fall in love with you to then go and get.
Yeah.
There was some
Mesmerize him, and then
magic
you'd be
going
happy
on
forever, and he'd
there.
be
Yes,
he'd be
yes,
ensorcelled by your.
by your magic.
Yeah.
So that was that was Midsommar, and we all heard how that turned out.
Yeah.
And then lastly, in The Shining, Chris and I think we spent a good 45 minutes talking about everything that was in the pantry in the hotel in The Shining
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
old Jack Torrance spends a lot of time locked in the pantry, and we
It is
just
true.
couldn't help but notice our traditional like 1980 fruit cocktail that we
Yeah.
all knew and loved as children. So
Yeah.
those are our
I
nominees.
mean, I didn't, but we recognize it.
Oh, you didn't have fruit? You didn't have that fruit cocktail?
Don't love it.
It's like pears and
I mean,
grapes
I
and
probably had it, but I didn't love it.
would you rather have the giant can of fruit cocktail or meat pie and pink lemonade?
Probably
Uh,
okay, I'll eat the fruit
uh,
cocktail. I almost said meat pie and lemonade, but then I was like, "Nah, not yet.
I'll eat the
Not
fruit
yet."
cocktail. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll eat the fruit cocktail too. Yeah, she was gonna feed her whole family on one giant can of fruit cocktail for 3 people.
Yeah.
But yeah. So after that summary, are you ready to hear who the winner is?
Yes.
The award
Yes.
goes to Meat Pie and Pink Lemonade, Midsommar.
Oh, congratulations. No one's here to accept or give us a speech, and I'm not going to do it on their behalf. But
Yeah,
congratulations to Midsommar for the best meal in a horror film.
yeah. And congratulations to whoever the new suitor is that'll eat the next hair pie and become ensorcelled.
Yeah, there you go.
Not going to be either of us, but here's to them.
I'm taken, ladies.
The next category is most ridiculous moment in a horror film. Also, every category is in a horror film, but I put it in every category because it sounds like it's a real award show. And the nominees are Sex Choir, Midsommar, Dragging Zombie Cape, Train to Busan, Merman Eats Scientist, and Cabin in the Woods. Sam, what are your thoughts on these nominees for this evening?
Well, Sex Choir was quite the hit. I mean, there was this scene which I think we detailed in the Midsommar episode where this is after he had the meat pie and pink lemonade, and the
Yeah, it's
couple
what
gets
led to the Sex
together.
Choir.
Yeah, this is what happens next. They're laying on the floor inside of the barn-like structure,
Yeah.
making love on the hay, and they're not alone. They have a whole group of women from the cult standing there naked, surrounding them, singing songs, making sounds, maybe even assisting a little bit in the act. And
Yeah.
they just reminded me of like a choir, like
Yeah.
in church, standing in front of church, singing a song. Only the church that I went to did not have naked women singing, and there was no,
Oh, weird. Mine
sex on
did.
the floor. Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
just kidding.
did you go
No,
to
JK. JK,
Swedish
JK.
cult? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The dragging zombie cape was so ridiculous. So there was a moving train in Train to Busan, and
Surprise.
I know, believe it or not. And there was our heroes were on the back of the train, but a zombie runs up, grabs onto our hero, and then another zombie runs up, grabs onto that zombie, and then another zombie runs up and grabs onto that zombie. And the process repeats itself until we have literally, it was like a cape of zombies coming off
Mhm.
of this train, just being dragged. And this is towards the final moments of the movie where the zombies are getting closer and closer to our heroes, and we're just biting our fingernails in angst, wondering, are the heroes going to get away? And as we all know, because you listened to the episode of Train to Busan, they did get away. At least the little
Yeah,
girl did.
yeah.
So the zombie cape was just kind of a cool effect, but it was kind of a interesting, ridiculous moment. And the third nominee, Merman Eats Scientist, was one that really got us all cracking up because the
Yeah,
entire movie, this scientist had been talking about how badly he wanted to see the merman
yeah,
yeah, the merman get chosen to kill the people who had been chosen for the ritual sacrifice. And no one
right.
ever chooses the merman. Finally, at the end of the movie, the merman gets out, he's free, and he kills the scientist who was so excited to meet the merman. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said that there was blood coming out of the
It squirted it.
merman's.
Yeah, he had a blowhole. The merman had a blowhole on his
Ugh,
back. And so,
ugh,
like, you see it from behind the merman, him, like, eating the guy, and then blood squirts out of his blowhole.
gross.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly.
Yeah. So that
Yeah,
one was pretty darn ridiculous and had us all laughing as hard as we could.
yeah. Well, if you're ready, the votes have been counted. We have the results in front of us, and the winner of the most ridiculous moment in a horror film goes to Merman Eats Scientist, Cabin in the Woods. I have to say, that is the most ridiculous of the 3 nominees. I feel like that's, like, literally the concept is ridiculous. The zombie cape, pretty ridiculous. The sex choir, I mean, ridiculous. However, it inspired you, to you wanted you oh, that's the only episode this season that you did the opening because you're like, "I've gotta talk
I
about
have to
this
tell you about
from
the
the
sex
get-go."
choir. Yeah, I
Yeah,
really wanted to kick it off with that.
nothing inspires like sex choirs. That's what they say.
Oh, that's a
That's
good
what they say.
saying.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you could tell the writers had a good time with the merman situation because that was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I hope they were laughing in the writer's room talking about it.
Yeah. Oh, I bet they
Yeah.
were.
Okay. So on to the next category. Uh, the next category is Best Animal Performance in a Horror Film. And our nominees are Sam, the dog, The Conjuring, Black Phillip, the devil goat, and the witch, Dogs in Space, High Life, Cute Witch Bunny, The Witch, and Zombie Deer, Train to Busan. Few extra nominees, but what are your thoughts there, Sam?
Oh man. Okay, well, a little bit of personal trivia that I'm sure everybody needs to know is
Yeah.
so the name of the dog in The Conjuring was Sam. And when I was in college, I was in a college fraternity and we had a fraternity dog, and the name of the dog was Sam, Sam the dog. And we had to
Did
call
he
it
die?
Sam the dog.
Oh,
Well, she probably has died because that was a long time ago. She has died.
okay, that's true.
Yeah. But yeah, we called her Sam the dog so that people
Mhm.
knew who, to distinguish between myself and the dog.
Right, right.
Well, so Sam, we do meet Sam the dog at the beginning of The Conjuring, and I think this was probably a he dog, but he was a good boy. He was a really good boy. New family, moving into a new home. He is from the get go. He is wary of the situation. He's like, this home is not. We should not be. This is a bad situation. He didn't want to
Mhm.
go in the house, and he tried to protect the family as a good boy does, and unfortunately, it led to his sacrifice.
Yeah.
The ghost, the witch, started with him, and he was the first to go down.
Yep.
So rest in peace, Sam the dog, both from The Conjuring and from my fraternity house. Next, there was Black Phillip, the devil. I can't quite tell you why, but just referring to him as Black Phillip, it just feels just a little bit racist, and I wish we could just call him Philip. But the
Yeah.
character is Black Phillip.
That's his name.
That's his name.
Yeah.
He does evolve at the end of the movie, and he turns
Yeah.
into presumably the devil, who then
Devil goat.
tempts. He asks. our lovely what's Anya Taylor-Joy's, character's name? Do you remember?
Um,
I forgot. Oh, Thomason.
Thomason.
Yes, there
Thomason.
we go.
Yep. Very
He asks
common
Thomas,
name.
yeah, very, I mean, how could I forget? He asks her, "Wouldst thou live deliciously?" And she says, "Yes, I would live deliciously, so, sign me up. Where's your book?" And, there we go. That's Black Phillip.
Yeah.
We have our dogs Lost in Space from High Life, which we all, we were like, oh, a glimpse, a shimmer of hope while you're
Yeah.
alone in space. Another rocket ship full of dogs. You could take
Yeah.
one with you. And so we see there's probably 20 or so dogs. Some of them have survived, some of them have unfortunately not. And our protagonist says, fuck it, I'd rather be alone without a dog, and leaves
Yeah.
them there. Terrible,
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was going to kill himself and his daughter very shortly after, so or go on to another dimension. We don't know, but why bring a dog along if you're just going to like fly away and leave it behind? So he knew what he was doing.
I suppose so. Then we had the cute witch bunny, also from The Witch, so Black Phillip's little friend. And cute witch bunny made many appearances and was very, it's very conflicted because cute witch bunny was cute and its little nose would just kind of do its little cute little twitching thing. But there was also something just a little bit off when you see cute
Mm,
witch bunny in the woods, and you're
yeah,
like, I think you're cute, but I also think that I probably shouldn't chase after you. I'm just not getting a good vibe. Cute witch
yeah.
bunny snuck into the barn, into the
Snuck into the
stable,
barn. Yeah,
and it
barn
was like,
stable.
oh, what's cute
Wait,
witch bunny doing in here?
wait, wait. Which bunny? Sorry.
Yes, the witch bunny, the cute
Yeah.
witch bunny.
Okay. Yeah.
Witch bunny?
Which bunny? Which bunny? Which bunny?
Yes,
Which bunny?
witch
Got it.
bunny. Everybody knows which bunny I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. Which? Yeah.
wow, we really beat that one. Uh, what's
With
the
a
expression?
big hammer from
With
the
a at a
with a
stupa hammer.
yeah. I couldn't remember the word.
Yeah, Witch Bunny survives though. Witch Bunny is never ain't nobody taking out Witch Bunny. Okay,
Nope.
and then the last nominee for best animal performance in a horror film was Zombie Deer. Now, Zombie Deer didn't have much screen time, but Zombie Deer
Mm,
I think opens the movie. It's the first zombie that we see. Zombie Deer gets hit by a car,
yeah.
as sometimes happens, unfortunately. The driver, not very compassionate, he just kind of looked back and said, "Damn it," and then drove off.
And moved on.
Well, he
He
said it
said
in
"damn it" in
Korean.
Korean, but
He said
same.
it in
Yeah.
Korean. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the deer was like, "No, I think I'm doing the 9 lives situation. We're not done. I'm good." Gets up. We see its like creepy zombie eye, and
Hmm.
then he runs off. And that's
Yeah.
Zombie Deer
I mean,
introducing us to
it
zombies.
was a very captivating performance. I thought by all
I
nominees, to be honest.
Yes. Oh, very much so.
Um, so, without further ado, the winner of the best animal performance in a horror film goes to opens envelope, looks at card inside. Oh, I knew it. My good friend, cute witch bunny, the witch. Come on up here, bunny.
Oh!
I have to say, Bunny and I go way back. I taught her everything she knows. We were in Forest Bunny school together. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I
I
did
was really
find
rooting for Black Phillip. Black Phillip and I go way back, but you know
that makes
what?
sense.
Great performance by Cute Witch Bunny.
Cute bitch one.
Cute bitch, honey.
Wow. Uh, anyway, let's see if I can enunciate. Cute witch bunny was very captivating. At times cute, at times a little suspect, but always on character in
I
scene
think
on character. What you know
I
what I'm
don't know
saying?
that I've ever seen quite that much range from any other animal in a horror movie.
I agree.
Yeah,
The deer was close. But the bunny just was more of a pivotal character, I think. So
yes,
the deer just got anyway.
concur.
Anyway, we're digressing slightly. So next category uh is one I'm excited about. It's my favorite part of most movies. That's not true, but I'm making everything up I say. But this category goes to the best kiss in a horror film. Now, this is a very competitive category. Everyone, has conflicting ideas of what makes up a good kiss. From Sam Raimi's Spider-Man when he was upside down. I mean, that's an epic kiss, not a horror movie, but I tied in Sam Raimi, so I made it cool. So The nominees for this special category of Best Kiss in a Horror Movie are Granny in Room 237, The Shining, Wolfhead Makeout, Cabin in the Woods, Witchy Woodsy Kiss, The Witch. So what are your thoughts, Sam? There weren't a lot of kisses in this season, but there were a couple.
But there were some good kisses. Very
Mm,
competitive category. It was very difficult to choose a winner. Granny in room 237 in The Shining, she was deceptive. If I recall, when
mhm.
she first comes out of the shower, everything hanging out. I
Yep.
believe she was a young, attractive woman. And then
Mhm.
and then Jack Torrance, married man Jack Torrance, whose wife
Yeah.
is, just a few stories below in the hotel, starts kissing on this lovely woman, and she transforms. And the next view that we get of her is she pulled the red woman from
Yeah.
Game of Thrones on us and instantly transformed to be about 1,000 years older. And
And
she
decrepit and skin
decrepit,
falling off. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
she's like, makes a sound and comes at us, and he's like, oh, thanks, but no thanks, and moves on to the next.
Yeah.
um the wolf head makeout, cabin in the woods. This was so fast you might have missed it. But our
It
lovely
was actually
character,
painfully it was so
actually,
fast,
you wish
but
it were.
also it could have been faster. It could have been faster. Yeah.
I thought that the something was going to happen with the wolf. I was like, this wolf is about to come alive and like eat her face. Um, so this was the character archetype of the whore who we established. I didn't love that they called her the whore, but I think that was part of the joke, I suppose.
Yeah.
And in addition to making love with her boyfriend, she also decides to make out with the head of the wolf that is on the wall in the cabin in the
Yeah.
woods
And
for
the
a good long
tongue,
time. And her friends are just watching. And in, 2005 or whatever, it was funny to do that,
I guess. Yeah. Or
I
just
suppose.
like
Yeah.
licking the tongue and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, she really got into it. I feel like the wolf also deserves credit because,
Yeah. It
you know,
had the wolf been alive, it could have been a nominee for best animal performance, but
yep, that's true, but
yeah,
didn't qualify.
didn't
And then
qualify.
lastly, the witchy woodsy kiss in The Witch, where how old do we think, I forgot the character's name was. He couldn't have been more than 10 years old.
Yeah, he was like 10-ish, give or take. Yeah.
Which, when you're a 10-year-old and
Which
which, when you're young and you're coming into your, burgeoning sexuality, probably not at 10, but when you're
yeah.
fantasizing about
Well,
whatever,
but
older
he
women.
was hitting, so he might have been a little bit older, remember? Because he was looking at Thomason
Oh,
kind of
that's
weird and
right.
like, yeah.
His
So
sister's he
there
was
was
looking at his sister's boobies.
some, adolescent horniness involved
Yeah,
in
which,
his
when
character.
you're that age, there's probably a big fascination with like fully developed woman in the woods.
Yeah.
So, he was probably very excited to be drawn in, and this woman she's just like in The Shining, she's young and
Mhm.
she's beautiful, and she comes down and their faces come close and their lips meet. And then the only reason that we happen to know that she's a witch, besides the, house that she lives in the middle of the woods and the way she like
Yeah.
slunked her leg out of the door, was we see her hand come up behind his head, to like cradle his head while they kiss. And we see her fingers are clearly about 500 years old, very
Yeah, and
old
like
fingers,
exceptionally like long and pointy and yeah.
pointy and bony. Yes. And not
Yeah.
soon thereafter, he ends up, being cursed, perhaps
Yeah.
possessed, not really
Has like something
sure.
weird in his mouth and he starts speaking in weird stuff and saying
Yeah.
stuff and then he dies.
Yeah. And then he dies. He couldn't
Which,
survive the witch's kiss. Yeah.
I mean, the kiss of death. Ooh,
That's what
see,
they
see what
call it.
happened? I mean, the kiss of slow death, I guess, because it took a while. But
Yeah, I don't know if I could have survived the witch's kiss, and I'm
I
a
mean,
pretty
probably
good
not.
kisser.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it.
Yeah,
Um,
it looked like
but
I was a pretty good kisser.
I, I was hoping you wouldn't catch that because I actually thought you said she.
She?
I thought you said she looked like a pretty good kisser, and then I was like, it looked like it. And as I was saying it, I was like, did Sam just say he was a pretty good kisser? Yeah,
Yes, he did.
let's just say I've been watching. I've been watching, and I've noticed it. That's what it looks like from
Yeah.
afar.
Well, it's very presumptive of me. I might be wandering through the woods and the witch be like, I'm just going to keep my door closed. I don't know if I want to go give him
Yeah,
a kiss.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't
Might
think
not be
she's
her
really your
type.
type. Yeah,
It
great
depends on the
minds think
day.
alike.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, true,
Anyway,
true.
who won the award for best kiss in a horror film?
Okay, so best kiss in a horror film goes to Granny in Room 237. Decrepit old lady, walk on down here and get your prize. Yeah, unfortunately, she
She's
couldn't be
up.
here either to get her award because she's still in the
Oh,
hotel. Yeah,
oh! I thought she was still walking. I was like, oh, it might be a minute before she gets up
that's
here on
actually
stage.
she just got out of the bathtub.
she's
She's not gonna make it in time.
she's got a lot of hair and makeup to do.
Yep. Yeah. That's not true. I mean, that's not wrong.
You know,
That's not.
there's one thing that I would like to say about this category,
Hmm.
and that is they all featured women, and two of them featured elderly women. And one of those
Yeah.
elderly women won, and I'm proud of her and I celebrate
Yeah.
that. Next season, I would love to see more best kiss in a horror film from men. Men, you really got to step it up in this
That's
category.
true. That is true. Because I guess technically we could have given Jack Torrance the award, but he's not the. He wasn't the. Yeah, he wasn't the focal point. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
his
because it was
performance
that was pretty
just
mutual,
wasn't
but
there.
she's the one that was like, seductive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although one could say the wolf was pretty seductive in Cabin in the Woods, and that's why she kissed it.
But again, you got
So
to be alive to qualify to win the
it's
award.
true. Yeah, you can't qualify
So,
for award if you're dead,
yeah.
which is just science and life. Okay, so the next category, we're starting to get to some good ones. Actually, they're all good. They're all good. So the next category goes to it's in line with the most ridiculous moment in a horror film, but this one is specifically the dumbest death in a horror film, and the nominees are daring dirt bike into an invisible wall, cabin in the woods, still alive, pencil dive, Midsommar, Daddy's got a lot of wood, The Witch, Mannequin Mommy Lightning Bed, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Dying in the Dirt, High Life. I really enjoy the names of these nominees scenes because whoever created them, genius. But Sam, what do you think about it?
I had to mute myself so that my laughter wouldn't distract from
Yeah.
the announcement of the nominees because these are really good. And the genius belongs to none other than my co-host Chris. So, daring dirt bike into an invisible wall in Cabin in the Woods. This
Hmm.
one, listen, I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor because the mighty Thor, he's
Yeah.
a smart cracker. But I don't know if Thor is all that smart. But in this movie,
Yeah.
he also was not that smart. I mean, he was
True.
brave and he was a nice guy, but he launched himself over a canyon on his motorcycle.
He didn't know there was a wall there.
You know, that is true. But if I'm going to launch myself over a canyon on a motorcycle, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a stick over to see if there is an invisible wall because you
Well,
just
now
never
you will.
know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You just
There's a
never know.
50-50 shot that there's a wall there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And so that was pretty horrifying. He just crumpled
Can you
against
imagine?
the wall. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing he died because otherwise he wouldn't have been nominated for this death category. But B, like, can you imagine if he survived after like going off, hitting the wall, falling? Do you imagine how Thor he'd be?
Okay. That's
Sorry.
just too much, too
Okay.
punny.
On to the next one. Sorry.
No. Also, I love how we just said that in order to win an award, you have to be alive because the wolf doesn't count. But
Because
this
it doesn't
award is
count.
literally called Dumbest Death. So
Well, okay, you
for
couldn't
this
be
award, you
nominated for
literally
the
have to
death.
die.
Yeah, it's very specific. It's very specific
Yeah.
guidelines.
It's
They're
really
in the it's
difficult
in
to
the
get.
yeah, it's in the small font. You have
These
to
are
read the
very
fine print.
prestigious awards.
They really
People
are.
are clamoring to be nominated. Okay,
Mhm.
still alive, pencil. Still alive, pencil dive in Midsommar. Now, if you don't remember this one, because we talked about it at length in the Midsommar episode, there were two elderly man and a woman. I think 72 was the age at
Yeah, I
which
think so. Yeah.
you were no longer allowed to live, and you had to throw yourself off a cliff in a
Hmm.
ritual suicide. And in the case of the lovely woman, she did not die a dumb death. She died a very brave death. She just swan dove off of the cliff and immediately perished at the bottom. The
Yeah.
gentleman was not so smart. His 72 years of life did not bring him the wisdom to know how to properly throw oneself off of a cliff because he just pencil dove, smashed his legs. We see the legs all contorted, and he's lying
Yeah.
on the ground moaning in pain. And that cues the villagers, his family, to approach him with a there's a name for this giant hammer, and I'm forgetting what it was, and a cudgel, I think. And
Cudgel, cudgel,
they,
cudgel.
yes, and they smash his face
Yeah.
and end his life. And then they give him
They're
a
like
couple
hammer
extra
time.
smashes.
Yeah.
They're like hammer time, and that's
No,
what
no,
they
no,
did.
no. Oh,
Yeah, I don't remember
yeah.
there being music, but
No.
yeah, actually, there was some good music in
There probably was.
Midsommar,
Yeah, that'd
as
be
we will discuss later.
yeah.
Daddy's got a lot of wood from the witch. Okay, dumbest death. The father from the witch. Now it was pretty. I jumped when Black Phillip, who we
Mhm.
all just talked about, gored the father through the stomach with his horn. Black
Yeah.
Phillip is a goat. In case you forgot, he's the goat, and it startled
In
all
case
of
you're just
us
joining us, yeah.
in case you just joined mid episode. And but the father doesn't really seem to die from the wound from the goat. Instead,
Yeah.
he gets does he fall? Actually, I forgot what
Yeah, he,
did
like,
he
stumbles
fall
back.
or did the goat
He
push him
stumbles
back?
one or the other. Both.
You know.
We'll say
In
yes.
any case, he falls into his pile of wood, log pile,
They
you know.
that he's been chopping all movie.
He's been chopping for fucking days because they need wood to burn in the fireplace.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever. Falls into this thing and like Jamie and Cersei Lannister that just collapses on his head and knocks him out, and that's the end of the father. He is done for and gone.
Yep.
Yeah,
The end.
the end. Mannequin mommy lightning bed. Okay. Now you didn't particularly like this effect, but I thought it was kind of fun and enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
the mother in A Nightmare on Elm Street, who we're calling Mannequin Mommy because at the end of the movie, she gets snatched back into the window through the front
Yeah.
door, and it is 100,000% clearly, obviously, a mannequin. Like this was the 1980s, so special effects weren't quite up to what they are today.
Yeah.
So Mannequin Mommy, when she dies, I think Freddy Krueger, he was on fire, right? And he gets on top of her or
Mhm.
something, and then
Yeah. They're
I can't
wrestling in
remember.
the bed,
They're
and then
wrestling in the
Nancy
bed,
walks
and
in.
then
Yeah.
suddenly, yeah, so she's dead, and then there's lightning, and then the bed just sort of caves in upon itself. She gets sucked into the sheets, and she
Yeah.
disappears, and that is her lightning death. I don't know why she didn't fight back or try to run out of the
'Cause
room,
she
but
must have been dead after Freddy Krueger jumped on her and burned
I
her. I don't
suppose
It's hard to say. Hard to say.
that
Yeah.
maybe it
Because she
was
turned to a
all a
mannequin.
dream. Yeah,
Maybe it was.
maybe it was.
It
Hard
was
to
all
tell.
a dream. Sorry.
We don't actually know if she's alive or dead today because
That's
we
true.
don't know. Yeah.
We left a voicemail, she didn't respond, so
Yeah. And then we talked about dying in the dirt, Andre 3000 in High Life.
yeah.
His death, I mean, nobody did anything to him. He just decided he was done. He went into the garden on the spaceship, laid down in the dirt, and then vanished into the
Died from
dirt.
despair and became one with
And
the dirt.
hopelessness
Yeah.
that he did.
Mhm.
So those were our dumbest deaths in
Yeah.
a horror film.
For such a vast amount of movies this season, there's quite a diverse, complex set of nominees for this category. There's 5 nominees. So it was very competitive. But the votes are tallied. They're in. I've been handed the invisible card. And the winner for dumbest death in a horror film goes to Still Alive Pencil Dive, Midsommar.
Oh, he just jumped on down to accept his
He
award.
just jumped on down. Yeah, he broke his leg and, hammer time.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Here's your
well
flower
done.
crown.
Here's your flower crown. We should have wore flower crowns. Next time. Okay, so for the next category, this next one is one that is important to me all the way into the bottom of my heart. No, I don't. That sentence made 0 sense. But it has to do with the feels from the movies we watched. So the next category is the most dramatic feel in a horror film. And our nominees are Train to Busan, Candyman, Carrie, High Life, Midsommar. 5 nominees, most dramatic feel in a horror film. Sam, what do you got for us?
Listen, these this group of nominees teaches us that scary movies are not only about feeling scared, we also have big hearts for these characters. Sometimes we feel sad, sometimes we want to cry, but the important thing is that we all feel something. So let's kick it off. Train to Busan. It was just this final scene between the father and the daughter when he knows
Mhm.
that he's infected and he has moments, final moments with his daughter, just heart wrenching. So sad to watch him have to tell her goodbye when all she's wanted is to spend more time with him. Candyman, so dramatic. These characters are I gotta think about what the fuck to say about Candyman. Hang on. um, Candyman was not only a movie about a scary villain with the hook, but it also had a deeper message and an important meaning for us to understand what it's like to be black in America. And that was a very dramatic thing to experience and to think about and to take us outside of our own experiences as two white guys hosting this show about scary movies.
Yeah.
Carrie, I ranked really high because of the feels. I ranked high on the scary scale because of the feels that I felt when this girl was isolated and separated from everyone who could offer her any support. And when she finally found that support and that community, it was wrenched away from her in the most dramatic way possible. High Life. Boy, oh boy, could you get any more dramatic? Alone in space, everyone who you know is dead except for your daughter who you're raising alone for like 15 years, and there's no purpose to your mission and nothing to hope for. You're just waiting
Ever.
to die. Talk about drama. And then lastly, Midsommar. So much relationship drama. Boy, oh boy, did we talk about how much we hated the boyfriend and how he probably deserved what he got. There was
And how
just,
much we hated Sam's ex. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
we did talk about that a little bit, but I don't know that I would necessarily condemn him to be in a bear suit and burnt alive. But
Okay.
it's a little dramatic, and we love a little flair
Potato,
for that drama.
tomato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are our most dramatic horror films. And shall we announce the winner?
We shall. All good nominees. All of these movies worked very hard for us this season. But there can only be one winner. So without further ado, the winner of most dramatic feel in a horror film goes to Train to Busan. All were great candidates. All were, this was a hard one, right? Every
This
single one of
was
these gave you
this
the drama
was
feels. I think but we stated it in the episode, Train to Busan, it was like a dramatic movie about human conflict. Oh, and there
Yes.
were zombies.
Yes,
Like it wasn't,
so
and
well
that because it
deserved.
was, yeah, because it was rated low on the scare scale because the
Right.
zombies were there for a little tension, but the real tension was a human
Human
conflict
to
and the
human.
the the jerk face guy and everyone else
Yeah.
just trying to survive,
Yes.
disparity, like losing your loved ones.
Oh,
And anyway, so well deserved. Well done, Train to
so much
Busan.
heart. Yeah, congratulations.
Keep up the good work. The Not to keep score, but the next category is one that we've all heard of.
Oh.
Yeah. The listeners are like, okay, get to it. What are you getting at? But the next category is best score in a horror film. Get it?
Oh,
So we've heard of it because we've
so
heard the
many
score, the music.
good options.
So many good options. Um, and the nominees for this category are The Shining, Midsommar, The Witch. What do you got, Sam? What do you got on these nominees for this evening?
Would you like me to sing a few of the tracks from these movies? Me, me,
No, no,
me.
no, thanks.
Oh,
No, that's quite all right. Yeah,
okay. Well, I'll do my best to describe them. So, The Shining opens with
the
this.
Midsommar one.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Our listeners are like, immediately no, unsubscribe. Um,
Yep.
so The Shining opens with this scene, this shot over the lake, right, and the Rocky Mountains, and we hear the boom, 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 boom. And the whole movie contains these sounds of like these shrill violins and the tension constantly building. It almost gives you the visceral reaction where you want it to end, but it also builds the tension in the movie. Then we have Midsommar, which we talked about in the beginning of the movie when the opening scene is so jarring and disturbing and the music just adds to it. You can hear the wailing of the passion and the sadness of Danny is transmitted into the music and just puts us right into her heart and that experience that she's having. And lastly, The Witch. The Witch took us back, it transported us to 16, 17, 8. What year was that taking place in? In New England?
A while
A
ago,
long
New
time ago.
England.
I gotta brush up on my witch history. Uh,
Which history?
you know which witch history I'm talking about, and we hear it just transports us back into a different time and did such a masterful job where there wasn't a lot of crazy special effects or gore. It was just the scenery, the characters, the rawness of the music that really put us into that environment.
So all great nominees, and I think that, all of these, we said it with The Shining, that movie wouldn't be anything without the score, and I think the same could definitely be said about the other 2, Midsommar, particularly in the way they integrated it, The Witch having that opening scene in Midsommar, like, stringed instruments throughout, um, but wait, this just in. Oh, the votes are in.
Oh, I
The
can't
votes are
wait.
in. Card being delivered to my hand, opening it up.
Make
Yes.
sure you
Oh,
read the right one.
I know. That'd be dramatic. Which was the last category. Um,
Uh,
the winner of best score in a horror film goes to the Flower Queen herself, Midsommar.
Oh,
For the record, the excitement on your face made it look like you were given the award.
I feel that way every time you announce the winner. I'm like,
Yeah,
me?
yeah. The Flower Queen herself,
Thanks,
Sam.
mom. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm gonna spend some time just really enjoying the Midsommar soundtrack while I study and work and just put it on the background. And maybe I'll do a little dance like at the maypole, see how long I can
Hmm.
survive.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can make it into a competition, and then you'll lose, but that's fine.
Oh, shots fired.
For the next category, we're this is angled towards really the hardest workers in the room, the people that really have to bring it to make a movie convincing
Mm,
and to make it just pull at your heartstrings. These can make or break it, particularly for Sam. And we learned early on that these characters Sam's worried about before he even knows they exist. And so
yes.
this category is best child performance in a horror film. And our nominees are Danny, The Shining; Cassie, Evil Dead Rise; Caleb, The Witch; Kim Soo-on, Train to Busan. Sam, which kids brought it? Which took them away? Which made you super worried? These are them. These are the ones that made the season good for you, I
They
think.
did, yes, and I think it's really easy to forget when you're watching actors how much skill goes into their craft. And listen, those adult actors have had decades of practice to get to where they are, but these kids don't have decades of practice. They and so seeing them the way that they were able to put themselves into the minds of these characters and tell these stories is really remarkable. So first we have Danny in The Shining, who you remember with his finger, rad ram. The way he was able to modify his voice to play, what was the name of his fingers character? I forgot.
It was
This is a
Timmy Tom. Nope, Jimmy
no.
Jam. Danny. Nope, that was
Um,
his
it'll
character's name.
it'll come back to
It'll
us.
come to us. Yeah,
Clearly,
yeah, yeah,
clearly,
yeah.
I need a cheat sheet of all the names of the characters from
Yeah,
all
our
the different
listeners right
movies.
now are yelling. They're
They're like,
yelling at their podcast
obviously,
thing. They're
you
like,
forgot.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but he does a great job of modifying his voice. We get a lot of close up shots of Danny, and so you can imagine the skill that goes into creating the character. Then we have our young friend Cassie in Evil Dead Rise. She, along with her aunt, are the sole survivors, And listen, she's been locked in this apartment all night long, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Her mother has gone off the rails. She tried to let her back into the apartment, and that didn't
Mm,
work out so well.
did not work out.
No, her siblings have completely lost it, and I think she saw one of her siblings chewing on glass, or was that the mother? No, that
Yeah,
was her sister. Yeah.
it was her sister.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She had to, shove, her sweet Stephanie through her sister's face just to
Yep.
survive? How terrifying. So Cassie, I mean, she's a little fighter, and she did a remarkable job inspiring all of us. We'll talk more about the work that she did in some of the other categories. Then we have Caleb, who you've already been introduced to as
Yeah.
the one who kissed the witch in The Witch. Caleb not only had to kiss an old witch and act his death. Yeah, Caleb's the name of the character, by the way. These are all the character names. He had to
Right,
act
right,
his
right.
death.
Yeah, because notably we said best child performance and then didn't actually credit the the
Any of the
actors
actors.
themselves. We
Yeah.
we credited the characters
Whoops.
for the performance. You know, it's
It's
fine. It's
fine.
fine.
But not only did he have to do all of this, but he did it while speaking in this English dialect from like 400 years ago. Incredible. Then there's Kim Suan from Train to Busan, who, as we established in the most dramatic category, had us all in tears, not only when her father was leaving her, but after she and her new friend survived the zombie attack and they're approaching the safe zone, and the soldiers on the far end of the tunnel can't really see them, and so they're not
Hmm.
sure if they're zombies or not, and the soldiers literally have their rifle trained on.
Sighted in, yeah.
They're like, here with this, we got to take out these zombies before they get any closer. And young Kim Suan starts singing Aloha Oi, and they hear her beautiful voice echoing down the tunnel, and they realize there's no way that that is a zombie, because what a beautiful little voice. And so
Yeah.
they spare the life of her and her new friend, and they presumably make it out to safety.
Yep. So while the votes are being tallied up, Tony was Danny's
Ah,
imaginary friend.
Tony the
Um,
finger.
he he didn't make it into a nomination because technically Tony did not meet the age cap as a child performer.
Also,
But you
Tony's
know,
literally just a finger.
no, he's his friend that lives in his mouth,
Oh,
who
right.
speaks through his finger, something like that. But all that to be said, the award for best child performance in a horror film goes to, and we weren't surprised at this one, Kim Soo-on, Train to Busan. Yep, again, her gripping performance, literally and physically, as she gripped her dad's hand and was like, "No," and she's crying, and then she sings the song meant for him. She's walking through the tunnel. Yeah, she brought it. They all brought it, to be honest. But she, the judges found her to be the best of the
The
best.
best of the best.
Not everyone can win. Not everyone can win every category.
Yeah.
So someone had to win, and we're glad it was her.
Yes.
So now we're spinning it up. We've gone from best child performance on the side of good, and now we're kind of bringing it to the bad, the baddie bad side. And the next category is favorite villain in a horror film.
Ooh.
And the nominees are Candyman in Candyman, Freddy Krueger in The Nightmare on Elm Street, Megan in Megan, Ellie or Ellie, Evil Dead Rise, and Carrie in Carrie. Wow, so many of these villains were the same name as the movie, and it made it really. I just didn't want to sound like I was on repeat and go Candyman, Candyman, Carrie, Carrie.
That
Anyway,
was pretty funny.
all that to say, what are your
What are
thoughts on
my
these
thoughts?
nominees?
Um, so many good villains, and as you know, I love a good villain. Um, Candyman was really fun to watch because he started out as the main character and he evolves into Candyman, and there's this uncertainty throughout the entire movie of what's going to happen. Does he want this to happen? Is he going to survive this? Is he actually the hero? Who is Candyman?
Right?
The evolution was just really fascinating to watch, and the end the final scene when he comes out, and was he floating? I feel like he was floating
He
if my memory
was.
serves.
He floated.
The
He was, yep,
bees are
yep.
flying everywhere, and he just has the power of the Candyman, and it's so just compelling and moving, and you're not sure whether you're to be afraid of Candyman or to celebrate him.
Yep.
Candyman.
In that moment, yeah, also watch how many times you say his name. Woo.
Shit, how many has it been? Okay. Well, this is a camera is not the
That would be a
same.
way to end the season.
Yeah, right? He just comes out from behind. Well, it's very specifically a mirror. Isn't it a mirror? Yeah, you have to look in the mirror. And I
Yeah.
don't think a camera counts as a mirror. So I think we're
Okay.
in the clear.
Can you see your reflection in the mirror?
No, technically it's not a reflection. It is a re portrayal on a digital screen. It's different. Candyman told
But
me.
the camera doesn't have a lens on it? Okay.
Well, no, it's not the same. Okay,
Okay,
I
okay,
think
okay.
we're
Sorry,
safe.
sorry.
I think we're safe.
Well,
And if
you are.
not,
I'm not. I
then
mean, I am. You are. Shit. Okay, never mind.
then well, this season will just go out with a bang. Okay. Next villain was Freddy Krueger, who there's a lot of people saying, well, he's obviously going to win because Chris's best childhood friend.
We were friends. We were friends at a young age. Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of people are thinking he's got it in the bag. But Freddy Krueger was a favorite villain because he really had a good time with every single kill. He didn't just run right in and murder his victim. He was like, first, I'm going to have a little fun. I'm going to chop my fingers off. Maybe I'm going to cut my bowels open and I'm going to run around and chase you for a little bit and just have a little
Yeah.
bit of fun with it.
Turn you into a mannequin. Yeah.
Turn you,
Crazy stuff.
turn you into a mannequin.
Make some maple oatmeal out of the stairs.
Yeah,
Make everyone
yeah,
breakfast. Yeah.
yes,
Maple
all
pancake
kinds of fun
oatmeal.
stuff. Yes. So we like it when a villain likes to have a little bit of fun. So Freddy Krueger definitely made the list. And then
Yeah.
Megan, another one who likes to have fun. Look, this girl, she might only be 4 feet tall, but she likes to party. She started
Yep.
like a worldwide dance craze. She can do all sorts of like really fascinating things, taking over devices and just, turning on cars with her mind and just
Yeah.
all sorts of cool stuff. Really, what a great villain.
One might say she's only 4 feet tall, but she brings a big personality.
Okay,
No,
okay. I thought you were gonna make a
big.
rhyme with tall and like ball or something, but
No,
yes,
because
big
she's four
personality,
feet tall. But
big
yeah, good.
personality.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good. That was we'll let that one. That was good. Next
Not
villain
too good.
is L from Evil Dead Rise,
Yeah.
and
Ellie. It is Ellie.
oh,
It's just
Ellie. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I misspelled it 7 times. It's fine. Or missaid it.
N-
Missaid it. Yeah.
Next villain is Ellie from Evil Dead Rise, and as we mentioned, she's not the best chef, but boy, does she like to have a good time. So Ellie, I mean, she was smiling the entire movie. Clearly, she wasn't, trying to just kill everybody really quickly. She was there to have a little bit of fun, and
Oh yeah.
fun she had. She took
A
out
little
the
bit of torture.
neighbors, a little bit of torture. Yeah, I mean, that was the tagline for the movie. Mommy loves you, right? She loves her
Yeah.
kids, and she just wanted them to be a part of the weird ass demonic sorcery that she was involved in. So,
Yeah.
we'll give it up for Ellie. And then our last favorite villain really holds a special place in my heart. Sweet Carrie. You know, she did some terrible things to some nice people and some not so nice people. And I just think that they are the reason that those things happened because she was doing her best to enjoy life and participate in community, and she was shunned, she was rejected, she was torn down, and it was
Just like their
very
house.
just like their house at the end of the movie. And honestly, I loved watching her embrace her inner Scarlet Witch, her inner Daenerys Targaryen, and she just really owned the room at senior prom. Senior prom
She
queen,
did.
Carrie.
Yeah, all good nominees, all great nominees. They all brought it, and they all, sometimes you don't have a good time unless the villain is fun, and so you need, or not even necessarily fun, because I don't know that Carrie was like fun, but unless the villain is engaging and makes you want to be there. Paranormal Activity didn't make the list because we didn't see the villain. Sorry,
Yep.
good movie, scary, but like
Not our
villain
favorite.
wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a nominee. But without further ado, the votes have been tallied, and the winner of the favorite villain in a horror film, close tie, The winner is Ellie from Evil Dead Rise. I truly feel this was a hard one. Everything that you said about all of them. I think what brought Ellie over the top was, she did her own stunts. She jumped out of bathtubs, gripped onto the wall upside down. She turned into a big monster built of her kids. She was still acting when her head was detached from her body, trying to convince her sister not to kick her head into the wood
Mm,
chipper.
mm,
She cooked the eggs, she vomited, she tried to tattoo an eyeball. I mean, she
just
just
so
did it
much.
all.
Yeah. Yes.
She did a little bit of Freddie, she did a little bit of Megan, she almost danced a little bit, kinda, not really, but, she just kinda did it all.
Yeah.
At times, everyone was covered in blood. She well deserved,
There's nothing
Ellie.
she can't do. She did all her
There's
own
nothing she can't
stunts,
do.
and what an upset! I mean, the audience favorite was Freddy Krueger. They thought for sure he was going to win favorite villain, but
Yeah,
listen, Ellie cannot be beat. The range that she provided and the just level of skill was unmatched. Unmatched.
yeah, yeah, well done to her. I hope she's having a good night. She's probably, like, at home taking a quiet bath, before she, tries to murder her family.
Dead before dawn. Dead before
Dead
dawn.
dead before dawn. Anyway, um, so on to this next category
I hear people
that
really had to fight to be nominated for this one.
they really had to fight for this one. They had to fight to get into this category, and funnily enough, the name of this category is Best Fighters in a Horror Film. This is, for all the people that just brought it, the badasses of horror movies, Scary Movie Friday Night Season 1. Who are those badasses that fought their way to the end, or at least to the end of them, and, really just kick some, bad guy villain ass or something. But the nominees for Best Fighters in a Horror Film are Sang Hwa, aka Mr. Beefy Guy, Train to Busan. Beth, Evil Dead Rise. Nancy, Nightmare on Elm Street. Carolyn, The Conjuring. All right, Sam. This is they all fought to be here. What are your thoughts? Tell us about these nominees.
Again, another very competitive group of nominees, and I know the judges had a very difficult time choosing the winner. Song Hwa and Train to Busan, who we affectionately named Mr. Beefy Guy, he was the true fighter. I mean, he really fought for his pregnant wife, and he even listen, big heart, emotional fighter. This guy
Mm-hmm.
had been snubbed by our main character, our protagonist, and instead of ditching him, he ended up defending him and supporting him and bringing him into his group. And that group mentality, he's like, we have to work together to survive. He wasn't just the brawny physical fighter, he also knew how to build a team that could fight back and
Yep.
ultimately get uh, some survivors at the end of the movie. Then we had Beth from Evil Dead Rise. Oh, sweet Aunt Beth. She was
Yeah.
not going down despite the demon's best efforts. I mean,
Yep.
her niece, her nephew, her sister had all turned against her, tried to murder her. She got trapped in
The
the elevator.
neighbors.
The
Yeah.
neighbors, right? There was no getting out of this apartment. The elevator that she was in flooded with blood. It was a blood flood. We had a nice little
Yeah.
nod to The Shining when they
Yeah.
slam down into the garage and the blood comes out of the elevator, but she was not going down without a fight. And much like Mr. Beefy Guy from Train to Busan, she wasn't doing it alone. She had
Nope.
her kid niece, who we mentioned in the best child category. They were fighting together. We see
Yeah.
them there's this monstrosity of a creature of all the things being formed together. They get that
Yeah.
thing. I don't even know how they did it, but they get it in the wood chipper, and the niece helps her by running over and turning that wood chipper on, and that is how they defeated almost the villain. Quite the
Yep.
fight. Then we had
Quite the fight.
Nancy on Nightmare on Elm Street. Now listen, sweet little old teenage Nancy was not there to do a ton of physical hand-to-hand combat. However,
True.
this chick, when everybody else doubted the seriousness of the situation, when her boyfriend was across the street falling asleep in his bed, she was like, "No,
Over. And over.
over and over. She was like, I am going to find this guy. We're going to solve this mystery. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And if that means that I have to go into my own nightmares to do it, then I'm going to do it. I mean, it was like Stranger Things setting the trap for the bad guy. And
Meets Home Alone. Yeah.
yeah,
Like she
oh,
was
the
a
home,
badass.
oh, I completely forgot she was putting gunpowder in light bulbs or something. I don't even know what she was doing.
Sledgehammers on door things.
Yes, and she apparently did it all in about 3.5 minutes, given the time frame
Yeah.
of the scene,
She's
but
quick.
so clever. She was a fighter and a thinker, and
Yeah.
quite the competition for this category.
Hmm.
Last nominee for best fighter was Carolyn in The Conjuring, the mother, the mother who ultimately gets possessed, and
Yeah.
she she had to fight against herself. She
For
literally
her soul.
was fighting her inner demons. The whole
Literally.
exorcism, yeah, was her combating. I mean, the demon wanted her to kill her children, and
Yeah.
she almost did it. I mean, she was like moments away from being taken over by this demon. And thankfully, the demonologists, who we learned is a real career that you can maybe get a degree in. Not sure if it's
Yeah.
accredited or not, but it exists, were there to help her with through the exorcism. Very close call because we
Hmm.
didn't have a priest present. And so
Very close call. Yeah.
she really had to rely on herself to dig deep and remember who she was, and that she didn't really want to kill her children, but there was actually a
Yeah.
demon there trying to take over. So she was a fighter from within. Those are our
Yep.
fighters in this category.
And they brought it, and they all fought it. They fought it and brought it.
That they
And they
did.
fought their way into this category.
That they did.
And so the votes are in. And spoiler alert, the votes are in for all these categories, but the votes are in, and and the winner for best fighter in a horror film goes to my homie, good old boy friend of mine, strapping it on. Nope, strapping on duct tape around his
That
arm
he
to
did.
fight zombies.
Yes.
Yep, strapping it on to kill the zombies. Sangwa, Mr. Beefy Guy, trained to Busan.
Heck yeah.
Nothing like strapping it on to take him down. That's what I say. Taking him down to Pound Town.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, that could be interpreted a couple different ways.
could it? Because he would like, he would pound his fist into
No,
the
I got
zombies
it.
and
Yes,
take.
I understand the
Oh
joke.
yeah,
Thank you.
taking him down to Pound Town. Isn't that? Anyway, that's something else.
I mean, you know.
Okay. Anyway, strapping it on to take him down to Pound Town. I had to say it one more time because I stand by it. This is a clean show. Anyway, it's not. Next category. As we're wrapping up to the last few categories here, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting to the good, whatever that means. But as we're ramping up to some of the final categories, this next one, this next one's an important one because we recognize best child actors or best child performances, best villain, who brought the fight, right? But sometimes there are those characters in these movies that just don't get the credit they deserve.
Mm, mm,
Characters we love, characters that had pivotal moments that just maybe grabbed onto the story, grabbed onto the villain, grabbed onto our heartstrings, you name it. And but they weren't the primary focus of the film. And so this category is most unsung hero in a horror film. And the nominees are Jong Gil, aka Sister Who Opened the Door, Train to Busan, Dick the Cook, The Shining, Sue, the Kind of Nice Girl, Carrie, Brianna, Candyman, Bruce, the Big Bad Robot, Megan. I like how all of them had like a second name except for Brianna because she was just Brianna. I think people knew who Brianna was. But Sam, what these the unsung heroes in a
mm.
horror film? I
Yes.
feel like I feel like in our podcast, you're like the unsung hero. I'm just kidding. That's rude.
Oh, well, that is true. Yes, I deserve more credits. Well, this was actually one of my favorite categories because I love
Hmm.
celebrating people who deserve to be celebrated. And I wish that we could have
Yeah.
more than one winner, but there can only be one winner in every category. Let's
Yep.
talk about the most unsung heroes in a horror film. So John Gill was there was the two older women who were sisters. I mean, I was kind of wondering if they were lesbians, but we looked at and it turns out they were just sisters.
They were sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the sisters has unfortunately turned into a zombie. We can see her through the window, along with the whole pack of other zombies. And on the other side of the train is a group of humans who have not yet turned into zombies, and they're all bickering amongst one another. They're trying to keep other humans from getting into their rail car, and they're all just angry and they're fighting. And John Gill is sitting there and she's thinking, this is hopeless. We've already lost. We're all fighting. These people are animals and we're no better than the zombies on the other side of the door. And I'm just going to teach them a little lesson. And she stands up and she slowly starts approaching the door. And Mr. Jerkface, whose name we haven't recorded, sees
The-
her and he's like, somebody stop her quick. And she gets to the door first and she just opens it up and unleashes the horde of zombies who then take over that train car and wreak havoc. And
mm,
you know what? She taught them a lesson, kind of. I guess they all turned into zombies. So I'm not
yeah.
sure if the lesson stuck, but
I don't know if they learned from it, but
I
it's fine.
celebrated her efforts. And then we have Dick, the cook from The Shining. I didn't know that was his name.
Oh, Dick.
Yeah, oh, and he had quite the pantry in the hotel, as we have
He did.
discussed at nauseum.
Yeah.
But he was the only character, I believe, who
Hmm.
died in the movie. He was the only one
He
to be killed
was.
by Jack Torrance. Yes, by the axe. Yeah. And
Yeah.
came from afar. I mean, I think he had to fly on a plane to get.
He flew on a plane, got in a snowmobile
Yes.
in a storm to get to the house
Yes.
just to get
And I don't
killed.
even think he knew
Waste.
the detail, like I mean, I think he had a hunch when he couldn't get through to the hotel
Yeah.
that something was wrong.
Yeah.
So he came all the way here to check on the family and then was sacrificed. And it just felt like he deserved more. He
Yeah.
deserved a better ending. He deserved way more credit than he was given. And
Yeah.
we really appreciate what he attempted to do for this family.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. I think he gets a little bit better story in the book, but
Ah,
that's neither here nor there.
yes.
Yeah.
This is most unsung hero in a horror film and not a
That is
horror book.
true.
Yes.
That is true. I stand corrected.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, you're not corrected. I was adding to what you were saying because you were right.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay, okay. I sound plus corrected.
yes, plus
Corrected plus.
uncorrected. Plus correct. Yes. So
Yeah.
then we have Sue and Carrie. Carrie's kind of friend, enemy turned friend, perhaps. She was initially part of the
Mhm.
group of girls who was bullying Carrie, and then she evolved out of that and decided she was going to try and help her and be a good friend to
Yeah.
her. And she unfortunately set up the situation for Carrie to get invited to prom, which ultimately resulted in the disaster that was the prom.
Yeah.
But Sue was the only person to go visit Carrie's place of death, her resting
In her
place.
dream.
Yes, well, it wasn't her dream. That is true. And she did get that nice little shocking hand up out of the ground that grabbed her and scared all of us. But
Yeah.
Sue, she tried. I think she tried.
And
She did a better job than the gym teacher or the teacher
yeah.
teacher. Uh,
And she had to and she lived to tell the tale, she lived to tell the tale and lived a haunted life afterwards, you
Yes,
know?
yes, she did. And then we apparently see her again in Carrie 2, which we haven't watched yet, but maybe season 2 of Scary Movie Friday. So
Yeah,
Sue,
maybe.
that's our nominee, Sue. Brianna from Candyman. Oh, we talked about how much we love Candyman at the end of the movie when he gets summoned in his
Yeah.
full form. And guess who makes that happen? It's Brianna. She's been
It is
arrested.
Brianna.
She has been apprehended by the police for doing nothing, by the way. She was just wrong place, wrong
Yeah.
time.
Her boyfriend was shot in front of her.
He was
Yeah.
shot in front of her. She's sitting in the back of the cop car and she realizes this is her moment to make it happen. And thankfully, there's a rear view mirror in the cop car and she looks straight in that mirror, makes eye contact with herself, and she says his name 5 times. Candyman. Candyman.
Are you gonna do
Candyman. Yeah, I'll stop there just to be safe. So that was
it?
Brianna. I mean, I just wanted more and more of Brianna because
Yeah.
she was fantastic. And then
When
lastly,
we talk,
oh yeah,
well, before last, right? And we talked about it too, about her being an unsung hero because she wasn't the main character, but then somewhere like halfway through the movie she became the main character.
yes,
As her boyfriend kind of started shifting and lost, I guess like real intelligent conversation and ability to like be sane, she kind of took over the storyline.
sh-
So what was based on his storyline, she kind of came from the shadows and like took it to the end. Yeah.
that she did. She might be my
Yeah.
personal most unsung hero of any film ever because of the way that
Okay.
she approached that dark, creepy
The
basement.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah,
Nope.
she's like, no, I'm smarter than this, and I'm not fucking going down there. Thank
Yeah.
you. Unlike the other ding dongs in some of the other movies that we've seen.
Yeah.
And then our last nominee for most unsung hero, oh, Bruce. Bruce the robot. He spent most of the
Oh,
movie just sitting
Bruce.
in the corner collecting dust, but when we needed him most, he was there for us. Bruce was
He
the
was.
robot that the creator of Megan had. He was almost like a Megan prototype. I think she maybe created
Mhm.
him in college or something years
Yeah,
prior.
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she built this robot, and Megan was just so well designed that she couldn't be destroyed. They had chopped her in half. They'd ripped off her hair. She had just, but she kept,
She looked mangled. Yeah.
she was all kinds of mangled. And she just kept fighting back. She was like, this party's not ending on my watch until they called in Bruce the robot, the big bad robot, and he helped us to defend ourselves against Megan. I can't remember, Chris, what happened to Bruce at the end of the movie?
Um, I don't remember either. See, unsung hero. Because guess
Exactly.
what? He saves the day, and we don't even remember
What
what happened
happened
to
to
him
him?
afterwards.
Well, to
Oh,
be
poor
fair, this was
Bruce.
like
Poor
10
Bruce.
movies ago. So a lot
That is
has
true.
happened between the end of Megan and getting us to where we are today.
We've come a long way.
Yes. But maybe we should announce the winner of most unsung hero in a horror film.
So the award for most unsung hero in a horror film goes to Bruce the Big Bad Robot, Megan. It's super unfortunate Bruce couldn't be here to get the award tonight because we don't remember what happened to him as the movie ended. He was lost as our memory of him faded. But well done, Bruce. You saved the day, and now the award can go on your shelf in your basement,
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Hopefully Bruce makes a reappearance in Megan too.
Yep.
Yeah.
That would be great. That honestly, that should be how it goes. It should be
Megan
Bruce versus Megan.
2.0.
Yeah.
Ooh, like a little fighting
Ooh.
match.
It would be, although that we've kind of already seen that, so they'd have to like step it up.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Bruce 2.0 and Megan 2.0.
Bruce, yeah, exactly. That'll be the name. I hope that's not the name because
Yeah.
it sounds kind of cheesy.
Rooting for you, Bruce.
So we're down to the last two categories.
Mm.
This next category has to do with the movies that scared us the most this season, and there were two. In case you forgot, from the beginning of the episode, The Conjuring and Paranormal Activity. The Conjuring was a 10. We thought that was going to be the top of the season until we watched Paranormal Activity, and that was the 11. So this category is best scare-filled scene in the scariest movies. And the nominees are The Demon Behind the Door, The Conjuring, Mom Trapped in the Cellar, The Conjuring, Screams, Silence, and Footsteps, Paranormal Activity. Sliding Down the Hall is a Drag, Paranormal Activity. Sam, these nominees were we tried to pull out the scariest scenes that we could think of from these movies. What do they bring back for you? What are your thoughts?
Every single one of these nominees unlocks our like deepest rooted fears. It makes you feel like you're 7 years old again, hiding in your bed from the monster that is outside that you can't see. So it starts off with the demon behind the door with there's the two sisters in The Conjuring sharing a bedroom. One of them can see a shadowy figure, a man standing behind her door. And so
Yep.
she's screaming and she's pointing, and her other sister's like, "What? What do you see? I don't see it. What is there?" And she's like, "No, it's there. I see him." We've already she checked under her bed, and there was that very creepy, upside down view, like as if you were hanging on the side of your bed looking underneath it. And so she's down there
Mhm.
looking, which when you're 7 years old, afraid in your bed, what's the first thing you're like? There's something under my bed. I know it's
Yep.
there. I don't want to
Don't
look.
look.
I don't want to
Don't look.
look. She looked, and then she got up from underneath, and she sees the man behind the door. We don't see the man behind the door, but she sees the man,
Right.
and the hysteria that she is expressing what she sees, just that it just really gets us all riled up. We like, "Oh,
Yeah.
something's there and we can't do anything about it." Same movie, The Conjuring. The next nominee is with the mom, Carolyn, who we established was one of the fighters. Now, in this
Mm.
scene, she heard a noise in the cellar.
In the cellar, yeah.
She opens the door to investigate, but before she can turn and leave the cellar, the door slams behind her and she tumbles like head over heels down the
Thumbelina
stairs.
Carolyn, yeah.
That is her tumbling away down into the cellar. She's freaked out, right? She's alone. There's creepy noises happening everywhere. She turns and she sees a kid's like a ball, like a little bouncy ball, fly out of nowhere from behind some boxes towards her.
From the shadows.
And that
Yeah.
moment, that was my Brianna moment where I was like, nope, fuck that. Get the fuck out of the basement right now. She's scrambling. She gets herself to the top of the stairs. She's like freaking out, hyperventilating, and all we see
Yeah.
are two
She's
hands.
lighting one match at a time.
That's it. She lights the
Yeah,
match.
she's one match
Yep.
to try to see.
Yes.
And so that's focused on what's in front of her. Go ahead.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yes, yes. No, these are good details. And all we can see is her face in the darkness, and from behind her, two hands come next to her cheek and they go, and we hear the double clap that they had been playing when they played the blindfolded game of trying to find one another in the house.
Hide and clap.
Hide
Worst
and
game.
clap. Somebody
Don't do it.
is
Don't
behind
play
her
it.
and we can't see who it is. So scary. Okay, and then the next two nominees are both from Paranormal Activity. So there's the scream, the silence, and the footsteps at the end of the movie. This is the final scene when the what's the girl's name? The main character,
Katie.
Katie. There's Katie and there's Mika. Katie, possessed, disappears from the room. We hear this blood curdling scream from outside the bedroom, and it goes on for seconds, like too many seconds. The boyfriend, Mika, wakes up when he hears the scream, darts out of the bedroom, races to go find her. There's more screams, and then suddenly everything goes silent. Totally silent. We can't see what happened.
Mhm.
We have no idea what is going on with the two of them. Who's dead? Who's alive? Who's been hurt? Who's okay? And then the next thing we hear are just footsteps. Footsteps coming up the stairs, getting a little bit closer. I can feel the thing inside of my TV screen looking back at me from the top of
Yeah.
the stairs. Even though
But you can't see it.
I can't see it, and even though I'm not in the movie, I'm on the other side of the screen, I can feel it looking at me. So
Yeah.
scary. Ooh, and then, of course, the body gets thrown at the camera. I think that the silence leading up to that was the most scary part. But the next thing we
Yeah.
see is Mika's body being hurled at the camera, and then the demon Katie sniffing his body and then approaching the camera before it goes black in the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But the last nominee, there was a lot of build up here to these nominees.
Yeah.
Are
You're
there
like, "Oh, and but then the last one."
But the last nominee was sliding down the hall is a drag, and what a drag it was. So this was such a mystery. Katie, this was before that final scene. Katie and Mika are laying in bed together, and we see her bed sheet billows up and folds over her to expose her leg. Her leg is then jerked. She falls violently out of the bed, and we see there's nothing there. There's literally nothing there. We can see nothing, but we see her leg being pulled as if there was somebody there, and she is gets dragged out of the bedroom, down the hallway, screaming bloody murder. She disappears down the hallway. Her boyfriend, of course, wakes up, goes, chases after her. He can't wrestle her free from whatever we can't see that's dragging her. But later it is revealed after he gets her back into the bedroom and holds her. The next morning, we see she has a bite mark in the side of her
Yeah.
body. Is some bite we can't recognize what kind of teeth or pattern this is. Clearly, something that we have never seen before. That is our fourth nominee for the best scare filled scene in the scariest movies.
And they're all this, I mean, they're the scariest scenes, right? They got us the most. Chill inducing scenes. And oh wait, I'm getting word. Yep, votes have been counted. Yep. Oh, oh, it was a close one. It was a close one.
Oh gosh.
And the award goes to for best scare-filled scene in the scariest movies. If you couldn't tell by which one of the descriptions Sam gave was the most dramatic, the award goes to Scream, Silence and Footsteps, Paranormal Activity. I think most people probably could have guessed if they, assuming that you all listened to last episode, that scene was the one that simultaneously gave Sam and I chills. I think the chills for me though came after she came in the room. So it built
Oh,
up.
yes.
She walks in with blood covered her and she gets down on all fours and she's sniffing his body and her face in that point is a little bit contorted, but
Yes.
like because of video quality you can't really see it and I'm trying to see and that just like chills. It gave us both chills. And so, I mean, that was kind of, we could have guessed that would have been the winner. But all the nominees did a great job of bringing the scare. But that one just, outperformed the rest.
It really did. It really delivered. And when I need a little bit of self
Like
scare,
Amazon Prime.
oh, good reference. Yes, like Amazon Prime. If you missed that one, I don't even remember which episode that reference was, but
Uh, Guaranteed to deliver. I was talking about
true.
80s slasher films when we were doing some the you were picking.
Good
And I said
memory.
they were guaranteed to deliver.
Wow. Good.
Well,
I was about to say
I don't remember much.
the true fans will know what we're talking about. But whenever I'm in the need for some self scare,
Mm,
this is where I'll turn. The paranormal is
yeah.
where it is. That's where it's at.
That's where it's at. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're down to the final
Oh,
category for this award show, and this is one that I'm most excited about. This is why we watch horror films. Nothing that we've said previously. We don't care about the performances. We don't care about the villains. We don't care about the best scary moments. Okay, those are all lies. We care about all of them. But there had to be a last category, and this one is it. And this category is best death scene in a horror film. This category was chosen based on multiple criteria, both creativity, the how gratifying it was, and the category was best death scene in a horror film. And the nominees are A Taste of Stephanie, Evil Dead Rise, You're Grounded, Up in a Wood Chipper, Evil Dead Rise, Dance Run, Chop Chop, Megan, Glenn's Bloody Fear Fountain, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hanging Out with Your Lungs Out, Midsommar, Bears, Boyfriends, and Barn Fires, Midsommar, Mama Saint Sebastian, Carrie. I'm the most proud of these names. You could tell my creative juices were flowing a little bit towards the end of these nominees. But Sam, break it down. These are the best death scene in a horror film.
oh,
There's so many,
so
right?
many.
Obviously, there's limited villains. We like some villains, we don't like others. We like some performers, we don't. But like, there's always going to be death
Yes.
scenes, except for in The Shining, there was only one. But in most cases, there's plenty to choose
Yes.
from. So lots of competition
Yes.
here. What are your thoughts?
Yes. So many good death scenes. I mean, we were looking for creativity. We were looking for gratifying death scenes where after the death we're like, yes, finally. And so there was a lot of great choices. very competitive field. A Taste of Stephanie and Evil Dead Rise. We've mentioned this. So Stephanie, if you forgot, the character of Stephanie was simply the head of a baby doll who had been placed on top of a wooden, like a broomstick type thing. And at some point, Stephanie gets broken in half, and there's a sharp end to the broomstick. And so, to defend herself against her older sister who has been possessed by a demon, our young character takes Stephanie and stabs her sister through the mouth, through her entire skull, and then the other half of Stephanie comes out on the back end of her head. It's gory and violent and
Mm.
shocking and quite creative. And just Stephanie herself wasn't, it wasn't like she was just a broomstick. She was
She w
her own
one could say
character.
Stephanie might have been an unsung hero for
That's
for her
true.
movie. Had she been a real character, she might have
She
been
might
an
have
unsung
been an
hero.
unsung hero. I mean, she had a name. So, yes, that was our first nominee. The second nominee, also from Evil Dead Rise, You're Grounded, dot, 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 up in a wood chipper, was, it was the story of teamwork and survival. We had established at this point that the demon that had possessed our other friends, our family, the
The
Deadites,
Deadites,
that's
yeah.
right, the Deadites, could not be killed by any normal means, right? They learned through the vinyl recordings of priests in the past who dealt with the Deadites that simply chopping them into a couple pieces, I mean, you could cut their head off, you could cut their arms off, they're gonna still find a way. They don't just die. They
Yeah.
somehow keep chasing you and trying to do you harm.
They keep
They
coming.
keep coming.
Dead by
Dead
Dawn.
by Dawn. And so throughout the movie, we're thinking there's no hope, there's no escape, because no matter what you do, these things are going to keep coming until we make it to the garage and we realize that there is a wood chipper. A wood chipper is not just going to chop your head off, it is going to grind your entire body into nothingness. And that is what our two remaining characters do is they stuff the
Yeah.
beast into the wood chipper, and not only was it an act of survival, but they had to work together. It was an act of teamwork.
It was teamwork. Yeah.
Quite inspirational.
It was very gratification. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
gratifying. I think the mom's head was said something at the end, and she kicks it. She like kicks it, stuffs it
Yeah.
with her boot into the wood
Yeah.
chipper. So
Yep.
good. Okay, the third nominee, Megan. Dance Run Chop Chop. Oh boy. We love Dance Run Chop Chop. Remind me, Chris, is this the scene where she does the dance, the famous dance?
The dance. She dances, she pulls the blade off, she runs, and a chop
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 chop.
to guy in the elevator.
Really
Yeah.
creative use of just a basic office product. She takes
Mhm.
the one of those paper slicer
Paper
blades. Yeah,
cutter.
she just
Yeah.
rips that
Yeah.
thing off. And okay, see, I'm missing some details. Help me fill in the details here. The guy who she stabs on the elevator with the paper cutter, why did we
Mhm.
want what was it about him that we were like, oh, he's a
Oh, I don't think we cared that he died. It
oh,
was just, the execution of it all.
okay.
Yeah. I don't think we had anything
The
against him. I
execution of it all,
also
you say?
yeah, like what I did there on accident. Um, I actually don't remember the name of that guy's character, but I don't think that him particularly
Okay.
did we have,
I
we
thought there
weren't
was
like
something. I thought he was like an annoying executive or had done something.
he probably oh,
I
was he the
forgot. I don't
executive?
remember.
I forgot.
Yeah, there's a
Hey, you know what? Y- listeners, go back and find out and tell us how everything we missed
yeah,
in the
yeah,
comments.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're everyone who's listening is like,
They're
how could
like,
you
you
forget?
did you not pay
Yeah,
attention?
yeah. This is the second time we've forgotten something from Megan. Maybe we should rewatch it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we should watch the unrated version.
That we should. We talked about the fact that
We
they
should.
changed.
But we're digressing
Yes,
from the
yes. Okay,
category.
the category. Sorry, because everyone's dying to know who wins. Okay, so the next nominee from Nightmare on Elm Street was Glenn's Bloody Fear Fountain. Now, this was when Glenn, old sleepy boyfriend, old
Old Sleepy Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, just couldn't keep himself awake, and he gets sucked into the bed, kind of like the mom does later. But he doesn't
Yeah.
stay in the bed. His remains come out of the bed. Well, it's not really his remains; it's just his
Yeah.
blood. And we learned
It's
about
like blood
blood
diarrhea.
diarrhea, and the fountain effect was actually kind of cool, is what we talked about. It was like oh,
Mhm.
how did they do that? And it turns out the way they did that was they had a rotating room and it rotated upside down. And then they poured blood out from the top, which looks like it's coming from the bottom, and it just
Yep.
flows out. Um, so that was one gratifying death, creative death, you might say. Hanging out with your lungs out from Midsommar. We have two nominees for Midsommar. Hanging out with your lungs out is when the guy goes into the little wooden building, the little shack, and he
Yeah,
see
barn or
some
shack,
barn
yeah.
or something, and he sees the other guy has been like splayed out, naked. He's like hanging from the ceiling, from the wall. He's like tied up to the
Yeah.
walls, and he's face down, and his back has been torn open, and his lungs have been taken out of his body and somehow like put on display. And we see the lungs; they're like expanding with air and compressed. Like it's like he's
Yeah.
still alive, he's still breathing, even though his lungs have been taken out of his body. Shocking,
Yep.
disturbing. And the most fun part about it is when he turns around and then he has a little bit of a some of that paralysis dust thrown into his face.
Yeah.
And then, well, we all know what happens after that, which is the next nominee, actually. Bears, boyfriends, and barn fires. So after he's been paralyzed, he gets stuffed into a bear suit, an actual bear, dead bear, all
An actual gutted
gutted
bear,
bear. He's
yeah.
inside of the bear. He gets taken in. Well, he's put on display, and they ask his now ex girlfriend to choose a victim to be part of the ritual sacrifice, and she's like, "I
Mhm.
choose you, Pikachu." And so he gets wheeled into the sacrificial barn temple, and they light the entire thing on fire with all of the other people who are involved in the sacrifice. Some still living, some dead. He's paralyzed, so he can't move, he
Mhm.
can't speak, but he can still feel what's going on. He
Yep.
knows that he is
Yep.
about to meet his end, and that is that nomination. The final nominee for best death scene in a horror film goes to the mother of none other than our hero Carrie. Should say our villain Carrie, who
Yeah.
Carrie uses her telekinetic powers to send the knives from the kitchen across the room. This is after her mother literally stabbed her in the back. She has to
Yeah.
defend
Yeah.
herself against her crazy mother. She sends the knives into her mother. She gets sort of almost like crucified against the wall with her hands out, and all the arrows like impaling her and her torso. And she looks just like the little statue of Saint Sebastian that Carrie has in her little chamber under the stairs that she gets locked into. And so that
Yeah.
is Mama Saint Sebastian.
So many good nominees. So many good nominees. But the award can only go to one.
This was this was
So
a tough one because there's so many good options, and
so many good
we
ones.
really had to unpack
Um,
all of these death scenes.
yeah, and figure out like which one met every mark of creativity and gratification and just, maybe some gore that we enjoyed, some fun, some, all of it. But without further ado, here we are on the last category, and the winner for best death scene in a horror movie goes to You're Grounded, Up in a Wood Chipper, Evil Dead Rise. I was just cheering like I'd won. Yeah, I
We could
obviously
cheer. We
I
could
did
cheer
not.
for them. We could start
Yeah, yeah.
celebrating. Yes.
I think that like when you talk about gratification, this movie like they don't stop, and you have the monster. She uses she's got the chainsaw and she
Yeah.
just gets him
Oh,
in
I
there and like
forgot about the
right.
chainsaw. Yes.
Yeah, so that I think, brought the most gratification. All of these were good death scenes. But nothing really topped that. I think the blood everywhere. It's like End of Cabin
Yeah.
in the Woods. For something about, and I don't know what it is, but something about the movies when they're just covered in blood to an excess, right? Literally blood coated
Carrie.
everything. Like
Yep.
Carrie, yeah. Like I'm here for it.
Yeah.
And I don't, and it's not even a gore thing. And we haven't even tapped into a gore theme yet,
Mm.
Well, see what comes next season. But um get your vomit bag ready. No, I'm
Oh
just kidding.
boy.
I hope I'm kidding. Anyway, but the like the blood covering everything, like those scenes, I think that's part of what made Evil Dead Rise so fun.
Yes.
But that's why that scene at that point, it's just balls to the
There was
wall,
so much
like
energy. You're just like you're
yeah.
like
The
cheering.
callbacks to the previous
Yeah.
movies are in that, yeah, and
It
so
was just so
that
great.
did
Now
it.
I have to throw out a quick notable mention for Bears, Boyfriends, and Barn Fires. One, because
Yep,
what a
yep,
great name for a nominee. But that was
yeah,
also it was sick and twisted and creative and also
yeah,
gratifying. And you're just like, I can't believe I'm celebrating the death of another human, but it's this like weird revenge fantasy. And
yep.
just what a I mean that what a close second that was.
And and it's tied to like her character's release of her
Yeah.
despair,
Like
you
Danny's
know.
free, she's
Um,
free. Now we had a that was a tough choice between those 2, and the reason we
mhm,
chose You're Grounded Up is because Bears, Boyfriends, and Barnfires, while very creative, was ultimately about
mm,
revenge. You're Grounded
right.
Up was ultimately about teamwork and survival.
And survival. Yeah.
So
Yep.
that one
Yeah.
shone through.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We do have a few more honorable mentions. So, a few would be categories that maybe there wasn't enough nominees, right, to really give it out. And you guys don't have all night to be here while we give out more awards. So, a few of these honorable mentions go to most uh, unclever product placement goes to The Shining. We talked about it a little bit, but in that pantry, all the cans of product placement that were all over the place, which was actually really fun, but also like not sly at all. Um, yeah, cans for days. But fun for us to identify and unpack. No pun intended. The most captivating opening sequence,
Mm,
two movies in the category. We talked about it this season. Evil Dead Rise, that opening scene, the words coming up behind the
yeah.
mountains, and you're just like, oh yeah, they're bringing it for this movie, and I'm here for it.
The
And
shock of
that
the
and
drone
Midsommar.
scene, yes.
Oh yeah, the drone scene. And so between that and Midsommar, of course, we talked about that first 10 minutes and that gruesome, gruesome scene that really just had you sitting there, like gripping your popcorn, like frozen on the way to your mouth, like, oh God, this is some shit. So most captivating opening scene, worst twins, because twins are evil and we hate
Oh my
them.
gosh.
We're giving them an honorable mention for The Shining and The Witch.
Yep,
The at least the ones in The Shining like
died.
didn't say much, yeah,
I guess
but
we
the ones
don't
in
know
The
what happened to
Witch,
the ones in
evil
The Witch,
twins. Yeah, we don't. We never
and
found
that's
out.
okay.
But I'm okay with
Yeah,
it. Yeah, we didn't
we
need
don't
to
need
see
to
them
know.
again. Um, and then the final two honorable mentions go to the overall most enjoyable experience. And we both agreed Evil Dead
Mhm,
Rise. It was just so
mhm.
fun. It not tied to us going to a theater, but that might have been it. But I watched it again and I still just love it. I just love the movie. Some of these movies I really enjoy, but something
There was
about
a
that
lot of
movie,
funny
the
moments. Yeah,
and I think it brings in the genre. We talked about it. There's the creepy moments, her crawling on the wall. There's the blood filled moments. There's the gore
yeah,
moments. There's the campy
yeah.
moments. To me, I just thought it was just a really
It
well
was a lot of
done.
fun.
And finally, last honorable mention: scariest movie this season. We know it. Sam still having nightmares. Paranormal Activity.
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
So many good movies. Well, so just to wrap us up, there were 3 movies that really stood above the rest in terms of the number of nominations and the number of wins. There was Evil Dead Rise, which we just said, a lot of
Hmm.
fun. Nominated
Yeah.
6 times for awards tonight, and it won 2 of those awards. Then we had,
Well done.
yeah, yeah, Train to Busan, nominated for 6 awards, and it won 3. And
Mm.
then, the movie that just couldn't be beat, Midsommar, a
Yeah.
full 7 nominations, and actually, I guess it tied with Train to Busan with 3 wins. But, Evil Dead Rise, Midsommar, and Train to Busan were the crowning movies of the evening.
Yeah. It's funny, since we kind of started this project and we've started tapping into like other projects that are similar. I mean, you talked about Too Scary Didn't Watch and them revisiting Midsommar and that being their first
Mhm.
one. We came to it later in the season, but people have opinions about it, and it's on like people are it's everywhere. People are definitely watching it. At the time of this recording, I think Megan is our most listened to episode, which kind of makes sense, I think, from the virality of it.
of the movie.
But yeah, Midsommar of the dance
Oh,
in the
right,
movie,
right.
yeah, I think just because everyone knows it, and so that but I think Midsommar, like, it's all over the place. Like, it comes up on every. I was listening to a new podcast the other day that I really enjoy, and they were doing some games, and it's funny, like they were doing all these different like quiz things, and a lot of the movies that they mentioned were movies that ended up already in our season, and I
Yeah,
was like, oh well,
yeah.
that's happy coincidence. But Midsommar, of course, was one that people just
Well,
talk
we
about.
we
It's
talked
interesting.
about how The Shining is like a cultural phenomenon. Like, there's so many references in
Yeah.
pop culture to The Shining. It's like an iconic film. I kind of wonder if Midsommar will become that for this era. Will it become like one of the iconic horror films that then gets has like pieces of it introduced into other elements of pop culture?
It'll be interesting to see. Well, it's also, and obviously we don't know what, 50 years from now or whatever will look like, or 40. There's so many movies out there these days. Which ones are the ones that are going to stick in people's head, right? Which ones are the ones in 40 years, Paranormal Activity, we said, is 15, 16 years old. And I don't know that it popped in my head as, oh, I bet that's going to hold up, but it did. But I've had a lot of time to kind of, but you're right. But Midsommar is one of those that I think a lot of people saw that don't necessarily watch scary movies. So it kind of bridges some gap between genres. Um, Also, I think Evil Dead Rise, the last one that came out in 2013, at some point I'm going to go back and watch it, but I don't remember it. But I'm going to remember this one, so I'll be curious to see how this one, as it continues to be available for streaming, and I'm sure other channels and other people are going to watch it, so I'll be curious to see what their take is. Well, shall we wrap it up?
Let's do it. I think it's time to bring this night to a close.
All right, well, Friday night friends, that's it for this bonus season 1 wrap up and first annual awards ceremony. Thanks for joining us. It's been a blast. In case you didn't know, we're trying to continue to grow our community, and you can help us do that by leaving us a review. So if you're still here,
Mhm.
then that means you've stuck around all season and all episode, and it's been a long one. So your feedback is extra important, and we want to hear from you. So do us a favor, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you want to hear more of next season. Uh, Also, if you have an idea for a movie theme, send us an email to scarymoviefrightnightpod@gmail.com and use the subject line theme. If you're feeling spicy, do both of those things. But we want to hear from you. We want your input. We want to make sure that we're producing stuff that you want to hear. And the only way we're going to know that is if you tell us what you want more of. So thanks again for joining us. Until next time, friends, this is Chris.
And this is Sam.
Take care and self scare.
Wow, Chris, I really enjoyed getting all dressed up for this award show. And check it out. This is a real bow tie. Like, I hand tied this thing myself. See, I untie it. How about
Oh.
yours?
Oh, that's
Yeah, you like
fancy.
that?
Yeah, no, it's real too.
Oh, let me
It's
see. Can you untie it?
clip.
Oh.
Yeah, I can unclip it.
Oh. It's also
It's real
fancy.
clip. I, yeah, thanks.
See you next season.